What's up, YouTube? This is Tien, bringing you the video you've all been waiting for in the efficiency series. We're going to be talking about maps and map sustain. One of the most common questions I get is, how do you have so many maps? How did you start, building your map pool, and how do I sustain high-tier maps? And my strategy this season was to farm T15s and Elder T16s, but I'm just going to kind of tell you guys how I approached it this league, and we're also going to roll some maps here at the end. Okay, so basically there's some rules of the Atlas in terms of the ways that maps drop. So if I wanted to sustain any map on the Atlas, I need to make sure that that map is the only map of that tier. So for example, if I only wanted to do Belfries, I would need to take all other tier 10 maps and then basically uncomplete them from the Atlas. Okay, and what this would do would mean every time that a T10 map would drop, it would be Belfry here. If I wanted to take that even a step further, I could uncomplete all of my tier 11s as well. And what the game will do is, anytime it would decide to drop a tier 11 map, it'll downgrade and become a tier 10. What tier 10 is it going to pick? Well, it'd pick Belfry if that was the only one on our map. So that example is kind of how you sustain one particular map, is by kind of tricking the game into dropping that map and that map only. But I guess a question that I get a lot and that I want to cover right now is this concept of a backup map. So how do you get your initial pool of maps? How do you get a whole bunch of Belfries? Well, if I wanted to do Belfry, I could go on PoE.trade and just buy a whole bunch. But I never ended up having to do that, and that's because kind of my approach to the Atlas was to chase down the Elder, get them to spawn on a tier 15, and just buy the maps necessary in order to do that. And by mapping and mapping, it built up a big pool of shaped T14 maps. In my case, I had a whole bunch of shaped vaults, and I've since sold a whole bunch. But my shaped vaults, what I would do with these is I would run these with Xena bloodlines for magical monsters, and the more magical monsters that are in there, they can drop map tier +1, and because it's a shaped map and there's no adjacent T15s to it, it would always drop my shaped arachnid tomb. So this concept of a backup map was really important. So Vault was my only tier 14 for a pretty long time. After I had chased down the Elder, I did some Guardian maps, what have you. Having all of my 14s and 15s uncompleted, and any time basically a T14 would drop, it would be that Vault map. That's important because, if you're sitting on Plaza map, for example, and trying to farm arachnid tombs, Plaza would only drop Sunken Cities because that's an adjacent uncompleted map. So you got to have that backup map, and that backup map has to be shaped. With those, I did run Xena bloodlines. I did Chisel, I did Alk in the beginning. And then basically when I'm running my shaped arachnid tombs, I always Chisel, Alk, and Val. And I'll talk a little bit about why valing is important, and we'll actually just roll some maps right here with these arachnid tombs. So some of these are corrupted already, all these over here, so I'm going to do these maps right here. Got to make sure they're of normal rarity. And so you can see here I have one that's magical, one that's rare, and then search for quality 20, and then I'll chisel these all up. Make sure that they're 20 quality. And why adding quality is important is basically increased item quantity from the map does affect your map drops. And that's why we add bloodlines. This is why we chisel. This is why we alk. And this is why we val. So now I'm going to check for reflect because I can't do reflect, for example. I'm going to roll those off. I also cannot leech. And okay, those are all fine. And now I'm going to hit corrupted. And the great thing about corrupting these maps is that some of them will go un-ID'd, which is great for the un-ID'd sextant and this whole concept of kind of playing around your sextants. So there exists some sextants that are good to play around. Beyond is one. When you get the sextant for unique monsters drop corrupted items. So I'll do Beyond and then put Beyond in Xena as well. These are called double Beyond maps. You can also do your high quantity Nemesis maps, when you get Nemesis monsters drop additional currency items, and then of course unID'd maps for the unID'd sextant. It's really important to have a big pool of maps. This is called kind of a map pool here, so you can kind of play around your sextants and get the most out of them. Yeah, the most obvious one is the unID'd sextant, and I will continue to roll these sextants until they become positive mods. And the positive mods are the ones that, you know, add more monsters to the map. Right now I have a reflect sextant, for example, and so what I'll do is I'll take the ones that became reflect, and I'll run these now that I have the reflect sextant. So part of valing the maps is that they can gain additional mods. So this particular one has 8 mods on it, which gives it, you know, 139 quant, which is more than usual. And part of the bonus of getting all these mods is that more quantity on the map means more map drops. So that's really, really good. One intended, I don't know if it's intended or unintended right now, but when you val T15 maps, they cannot brick into other maps. So sometimes when you val a T14, it'll become a T15 map, but T15s currently, and it may be because of the introduction of the Elder Orb, cannot brick into T16s. So that's kind of how I do it. I run my maps like this. I add a lot of increased item quantity through all those methods: chisels, alks, vals, sextants, Xena bloodlines whenever I'm trying to sustain. And that's pretty much it. Increased item quantity on the player does not matter. In fact, I have been running on this character right now that doesn't have any quantity on him whatsoever, but we continue to just balloon our map pool. You know, I'm over sustaining here. I have like a whole bunch that are unrolled on this left side over here. Hopefully you guys learned something from this this video here, and I will see you guys in the next